Hey there, fundraisers. My name is Shan, and I am Connection Point's digital fundraising strategist for our platforms such as Crowdfunder, CocoaPay, and FundRazr. Today, I'm going to lead you on a webinar about what to do if you find that your campaign has gone stale before you hit your goal. So let's get right into it. Now, this webinar is designed for nonprofits, social enterprises, corporations doing a corporate social responsibility project, or anyone running a campaign for a cause that you've been running for a few weeks and maybe you're not quite close to your goal, but you found that your daily donations have slowed down. So this is the time to not freak out. Definitely don't communicate to your crowd that you are worried. Act as though everything is completely fine, and always remember that it is okay if a campaign fails. You can always try again. Unfortunately, when we hear about crowdfunding campaigns, we tend to only hear about the ultra successful ones. But the truth is that it can be quite difficult to be successful on while digital fundraising. But thankfully, we have about 12 years of crowdfunding under our belts, and we had lots of suggestions for you to look over your campaign to see what you might be able to change. And if we can't really change anything, then we can look at a whole new strategy. And that's what we're going to go through today. To explore why our campaigns maybe have gone stale, we need to look at the content. So what are we saying to our supporters? How are we communicating to them? Marketing it, how are we actually getting that message out to them? And if both of those fail, then we're going to look at a complete strategy overhaul, which isn't quite as complicated as it sounds. So don't worry, I will give you plenty of tips to help you along the way. Let's jump right into point one. Are you communicating effectively? Now, storytelling is the most difficult part of campaign design, but it is arguably the most important part. Because what we're trying to do is essentially sell a feeling. We want our supporters to emotionally connect with our cause because that is what is going to entice them to donate. And if you haven't communicated to them effectively, then they might not understand what their funds are going to, and they might not feel as though their funds are really needed. We do have 7 points of guidelines as to how to write your story. I'm not going to go through all of them today because we do have online resources as well as a whole other webinar on storytelling. But what we are going to do is look at two of these points. We're going to look at how you are communicating the units of impact of your story. So that means how a supporter's funds are actually affecting the beneficiary that they're going towards. And the next part is the quid pro quo. What are we giving our supporters in return for their contributions? Before we get into that, let's look at a study that was done by the Lilly School of Philanthropy. What they found were that donors really wanted the organizations that they contributed to show how their funds are actually impacting the cause. And they also want to be engaged. This is something that we try to push hard with each of our campaign story guidelines, but where it has the most impact is if you use units of impact. Now, units of impact are a way for you to tell your donor what the value of their donation is. This can be difficult for some organizations. It can be really easy for some organizations. But the point is, we all have to get creative if we want our campaigns to be successful. So let's look at a couple of examples. The first one we're going to look at is the Worry Monster campaign. And if you've never heard of the Worry Monster before, that would be this little guy right here. He's absolutely adorable. This is a campaign that was run by the Pastone Foundation in Niagara Falls, Canada, which focuses on mental health. They wanted a way to help children experiencing high levels of anxiety over the pandemic, and their answer was this Worry Monster. This is a doll where kids can write down their worries and then put it in this little monster's mouth, and they can zip up its mouth and it eats their worries for breakfast. So it's not only something that the kids can do that makes them actively feel better, but then they can take their worry monster to a counseling session and go over their stresses with their therapist. So if we take a look at Pastone Foundation's actual campaign, you can see it's very bright and colorful, even though it's for a sad reason, but it's a happy campaign because we found a way to help out these kids. Now, for their units of impact, they communicated it directly in the story, and they tailored these wish list items and suggested donations to their supporters based around these items. So for $30, you could put a worry monster in the hands of a child who really needs it. For $65, you give them a counseling session and a doll as well. And for $100, that's a counseling session, the doll, and a workshop for their parents too. So you can see that this is a very obvious way to show units of impact. If I'm donating to a $10,000 campaign like this one, and I was about to give $25, I'm probably not really going to feel like I gave that much impact. But I look at this and I go, oh, I was going to give around $25 anyway. And for $30, that's going to actually give a child one of these dolls that feels immensely impactful. So you can see how much more easily I can connect with that idea as opposed to, hey, just donate to this $10,000 campaign where we're going to help out kids with anxiety over COVID. I know that for some organizations, this isn't as easy. You don't have quite a tangible thing to suggest as your units of impact. So that's where sometimes we have to get creative. What you want to do is think about exactly what the funds are going towards and communicate that. This not only shows transparency, but again, it helps the donor to understand the value of their donation, the impact of their donation. So for example, we have this campaign. This is from Fresh Roots, which is an organization in Vancouver, and their Make It So program. So they not only provide youth from low-income homes with healthy food, but they teach them about growing food, also business and leadership, and providing opportunities to be with their peers, as well as mentorship and even allowing work for pay. So they dug into their program details and came up with some pretty amazing units of impact. So for example, you can donate as something as simple as a row of carrots for $10. And for just $25, that's a day of programming for an at-risk youth. You don't have to insert these wish list items as what we call rewards as tangibly as this. You can simply state these units of impact in your story, but this is also a really good way of pushing gently your supporters towards higher donations. Like I mentioned last time, maybe I had it in my head that I would give $25. But if I see that you have a wish list item worth $30, I'll go, okay, that's close. And then I'll donate $30. And a good way to figure out how to do this is to look at what your average donation is and then work your units of impact around that and maybe aim for just slightly higher. And then you're working towards growing your programming. Just take a look at all the rest of these options here. So they have some really creative team members. And it might just be a matter of you sitting down with your colleagues, volunteers, even friends, or ask us here at Connection Point. We're more than willing to help you out, send you examples of campaigns that we think are like yours. We're all about your success, so don't be afraid to ask for help. So the next part of the story that is often skipped over or not specific enough is the quid pro quo. What are you giving your supporters in exchange for their contribution? For some organizations, this might be a tangible thing. We have swag and other rewards that we can actually give them, like this campaign. So this is the Crusoe Fund. That was Crusoe right there. He is an Instagram doggy. And he has some health issues. I believe they're liver or kidney issues. And his owners wanted to raise money for Cornell University, who are doing research on his specific illness. In return for donations, they gave thank you letters from Crusoe, bracelets, t-shirts. They even had an option to do a Zoom call with Crusoe and his little doggy sister, Daphne. So you can see how these can be creative and they can be impactful, but they don't have to cost you money. There are lots of organizations that don't necessarily have the funds ahead of time to create the t-shirts needed, to create the wristbands needed. And maybe we just don't want to generate that kind of time for ourselves, because you do obviously have to ship these out, et cetera, et cetera. So you don't have to give out a tangible item. But something that everybody does have are story updates. And we must update our supporters on our story, because the story does not end with the donation given. The story ends with you saving the world for your beneficiary. And if you're wondering, I don't really have updates to give. Everyone has updates. And this is a creative example that I'm really excited to show you. So this is a trekking guiding company in Nepal. So they run guided tours up Mount Everest. And obviously, when COVID hit, travel was down and they had to cease their operations temporarily. But unfortunately, in Nepal, they didn't have any government assistance. So these guides didn't have an income. There are 16 guides working for this organization, and that was about 70 people dependent on their income. So these 16 guides and cooks and their families. So this campaign was focused on just getting them through until when travel would open up again and they could start their work again. They still wanted to keep their families housed and fed and keep their kids in schools. So that was the focus of this campaign. And they did have wish list items. They did have an excellent story. However, what I'm showing you here today are their updates. So 16 guides, that is 16 different bios that they put on as their updates. I believe they did, once every 2 weeks or so, just to keep bringing people back to the campaign, as well as providing new content that could be shared. Because obviously we're not only targeting our communities, we're targeting our communities. And we need to give them constant things to share that aren't simply just the main campaign over and over again. This is new content that not only we can share to our communities, but our friends can share as well. And we're learning a little bit about other cultures here too. I mean, if you do have time, I highly urge you to go to fundraiser.com/Nepal Rescue 2021 and learn a little bit about this company and their guides. And I do believe that they have started up their operations again, so it was a very successful campaign. So that was how we can look at our story and how we are communicating and what we are communicating to our audience. Now we are going to look at how we are communicating that to our audience. How are you sharing your campaign? Because there are a bunch of different options, and we recommend that you look at every single one of them. Unfortunately, there is a bit of a misunderstanding with digital fundraising in that there is a crowd waiting for you. You have your crowd. Fundraiser does not market campaigns to a larger crowd. We do have, our search function on our homepage that allows people to look for campaigns, but it's not meant to be a significant source of donations. So it is your responsibility to make sure that you are actively sharing your campaign to your crowd as often as you can in as many different ways as you can. So let's start simple with direct social media. We've got Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and dark social such as Facebook Messenger that you can share directly from the Fundraiser platform. There are a lot of things in the news nowadays about Facebook and the declining use of Facebook. And it's true, there are less and less people using Facebook as the younger generations grow up and they're using social media like TikTok a bit more. But in terms of digital fundraising, crowdfunding, campaigns are being shared mostly via Facebook. So it is not something that we want to ignore. We still want to make sure that we have a good Facebook group. There are definitely those of us who still use Facebook. You should be sharing out to them as well. But what about those other popular forms of social media, such as TikTok and Instagram? Why can't we share directly to those? Basically, Instagram and TikTok are different beasts. You cannot share a link in a post unless you have a certain amount of followers. And even then, we need to be able to merge with their platform to allow direct posting, which we don't have yet. Hopefully one day, but we don't have that yet. But there is a way around this. You can put links into your bios and then have posts that direct your viewers to those links. So you can put a short code into your bio and then put a post into your TikTok or Instagram. But we very much recommend creating a video for these avenues and using your short code link in that video. There are ways that we can create videos very easily just using stock footage and pictures and videos taken from a mobile phone. They don't have to be fancy and professional. There are lots of apps available for free if you don't mind having watermarks for the app that you're using on your video. But there are free apps that you can use like Animoto or Lumen 5, where you can create a simple video to post and direct people towards your campaign. And it also tells the basic story of your campaign. So this is one that was created for last holiday season. Every year, this organization gets together different tech companies around Vancouver Island in BC and raises funds for homeless shelters who need food for their communities. So let's take a look at their video. So that was quick, that was to the point. And at the end, it has our short code, which is fund us, so fnd.us/ a customized script that they created for their campaign to make a very easy link for people to remember. Or when you post this, you can simply put see link in bio, and then your followers can go to your bio on TikTok or Instagram, click the link, and go directly to the campaign. So there are ways around that different beast of TikTok and Instagram. Oh, we don't need to watch that again. We want to go forward. Okay, the next thing is email lists. If you have a marketing email list, you can upload it into Fundraiser. And you do that via the contacts section. Now you want to make sure that your email list is of high quality. And by this, I mean, they have to be people who know that they've signed up to your contact list, and it has to be a deliverable email. For example, there are lots of organizations, even like ours, who might send marketing emails from an email that says no reply at ... whatever organization. Those emails are not deliverable emails, which means you can't actually reply to them. They're not going anywhere. So when you try to send a lot of different emails and a lot are getting bounced back and a lot are getting reported as spam, you're actually ruining your sender reputation, and that could result in your campaign being taken off of Fundraiser. So we want to make sure that not only our lists are accurate, but they're of really good high quality. We also integrate directly with MailChimp. It seems to be the email list that the majority of people use. You can link that directly to Fundraiser. But if you don't have MailChimp and you have another CRM, we do have integrations with Zapier, which is sort of like a middleman. So Zapier takes information from one program and puts it onto another. So if you have a large email list that you don't want to manually upload into your campaign, consider using Zapier as a way to integrate your current email program that you use, if it's not MailChimp, and our platform. Text to give is sort of an old school method of getting the word out about campaigns. The first thing I want to say about this is not the traditional text to donate method where you could text a number from your mobile phone and you can donate and it will be taken off of your bill on that month. This is not how that works. How this works is essentially you have a number that people can text, and if they text that number, they will immediately get sent a link to your campaign on their phone. How this is handy is if you have an event that you're part of or organizing, and you have a lot of visitors to that event, you can advertise that number. And if someone is interested in learning more about the campaign, then they can just text that number and they will get a link to the campaign directly in their messaging. How to do that in your campaign, you simply need to go to edit in your campaign in the sidebar menu, then marketing, then enable text to give. It's pretty easy. You just want to say yes, and then you have to create your own campaign code. It has to be a code that doesn't already exist. So if you put something in and it has a red X to it, that means it already exists. You have to try something else. And then it will give you the number that that your supporters can text, and it will be a number that they could possibly be charged for if they don't have free messaging on their phones. And unfortunately, right now we only have this available in US and Canada. And all they would have to do is text that number, and then immediately they would get a link to your campaign in their phone. We also have QR codes. QR codes are super handy, much more popular since COVID came into town. Again, if you have an event or if you want to market your campaign in maybe community centers or animal shelters or anything like that, you can print out a flyer with the QR code. Someone scans it, and then they will be taken directly to your campaign. To find that QR code, you just have to click this link button that is on your campaign in that share bar, and that QR code will pop up ready for you to download. Now, smart widgets. These are little icon badges that you can put onto your website. And this is a much more interactive and engaging way to bring people to your campaign from your website or someone else's website that's a little bit more than just a link and a word. You have different options for what your badge looks like. You can have it as a bigger badge, that includes your cover image, your social media summary, as well as a view button where that will take them directly to the campaign, or a donate button that will take them directly to the donation flow of your campaign. So if they just take a look at that and go, oh yes, I want to donate, they can go right into it. It will be opened up as an overlay on your website and look like they didn't even leave your website. You don't have to have that much information. You can just have some basic information here. And then this whole button is, or this whole badge is a button, and it will take them to your campaign. Or you can simply just put a donate button. You put the donate button on your website and link it to a donation form on Fundraiser. And you can link that up with your PayPal and Stripe accounts as well, along with any other campaigns that you're running. And it's much cheaper than running a donation button on your campaign that goes directly to someone like PayPal or Kila or something like that. So that is something that the majority of organizations don't know is available. So if you have questions on that and how it works, please let us know. We're happy to let you know. Okay, now we're getting into the more creative aspects of how to market our campaign. It's 2022. It's the age of influencers. And why go after building your own crowd when you can just borrow somebody else's? So, influencers already have a crowd, and they already have a crowd who are engaged around a specific thing. And a good example for this is if you're running a campaign for animals, so maybe a dog rescue or rabbit rescue or something like that. There are lots of influencers on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook who have pages for their pets. And they're more than willing to help out organizations for a good cause. All you have to do is reach out to them and see if they would be willing to help you. And they have massive crowds that they can bring you. There's also news outlets. You can contact radio stations. Yes, radio still exists. It's still a thing. Maybe local newspapers, local TV stations. Print out a simple press release and send it out to them and see if you can't utilize their networks as well. Ad space. I don't like to spend too much time on this because we are in the world of fundraising for a cause. And obviously, funds are very important, budgets are very important. But if you do have the budget, then consider ad space on Facebook or Instagram or even Google to advertise your campaign. And something that you might not know is that Google actually has grants that nonprofits can use where they get $10,000 a month of free advertising space on Google for nonprofits. Now, as of right now, it's August 2022. I only know of this existing in US and Canada. It is entirely possible it exists elsewhere, but that's definitely something to look into if you don't have the budget to advertise. This is a method of getting some free word out there. And if you don't need this grant for anything else, might as well use it. All you have to do is go and do an internet search for Google Ad Space Grant, I believe it's called. All right, engaging your donors. This is a part of marketing, but when you have your campaign, you want to make sure that you are also engaging with the people who are supporting that campaign. Here's an example from the Pathstone Foundation. So that's the Worry Monster campaign. Michelle here is the one spearheading that campaign, and all she does is simply likes and thanks every donor on that campaign. It's just a way of letting that person know that their contribution has been acknowledged, it's appreciated, and this is also shareable. You know, if I contributed to this campaign and someone said thank you, it's something that I can share on my Facebook and say, hey, this made me feel really good. Maybe my friends, my family, you can feel really good too and give a nominal amount to this organization that is important to me. So go on to your campaign, engage with your donors because you never know what you're going to learn. You could find some of those super advocates who are willing to do some more work for you and help share out this campaign.